So yes, a lucky few have had the chance to go hands-on with Mafia The Old Country before its release, and they've gotten the chance to spend a few hours with the game. We're going to talk about those first early impressions, including the open world, what to expect from that. By the way, there's going to be absolutely no story spoilers in this video. We're also going to be touching base on some of the more interesting progression mechanics you might not know about, the combat and the stealth, concerns about the graphics, especially on consoles. Also, how much mileage can you expect from this game? How replayable is it? And how long is the game going to be in terms of hours? Plus, a lot of you guys might be wondering, can you play the game offline? So yeah, a lot to go over here. We're going to dive into all of it together, so let's do this. And remember, if you're new, welcome aboard. Be sure to smack that subscribe button to stay up to date on all things open world gaming goodness and much more. So yeah, as I said before, there's going to be no story spoilers in this video, but you do need to know this at the very least, that this is a gritty mob story set in the brutal underworld of 1900 Sicily. And because this game is so heavily focused on story, I'm going to leave it at that. But journalists did actually get to go hands-on with this game for about roughly 3 hours. This game is going to be clocking in roughly between 10 to 15 hours long. Some of you might be bummed about this, but then again, some of you might be absolutely thrilled to hear that because it means you're going to have a finite ending. Also, by the way, that probably explains the price tag. This is not going to be a $70 to $80 game or anything like that. The price point for this one is going to be starting at $50, which is kind of a sigh of relief. It's nice to see that sort of price point return here. And even if you feel like that's too steep for a 10 to 15 hour game, I do expect that this one would drop in price within 6 months or so. And also, the dev team has stated that this is going to be a story-centric game. Yes, there is a crafted, beautiful open world set in Sicily, of course, that you can explore to your heart's content, but it's not going to be the focus point. Instead, it's going to be the backdrop to what really drives the game forward, and that, again, is going to be this really rich storytelling, this narrative-driven experience. But with that being said, on many missions, you will have the freedom to take your own path, and also the freedom to take your own path to that mission. So there is still some exploring, and there'll also be what is called an explore mode at launch. It's essentially what I would call a light free roam mode, meaning that once you've completed the prologue, you will be able to explore the game in this mode and find collectibles, spend your in-game currency on new items and vehicles and horses, among other things. And when it comes to the explore mode, the dev team did state they plan to actually improve this after launch. What that means, I'm not too sure. We'll have to find out. But I wouldn't lean too heavily in this game being full-blown open world where you can do whatever you want. Don't expect a ton of side activities and side missions. This is going to be more like Mafia 1 and Mafia 2. But you will have this in-game currency, which can be looted from enemies and also gained from opening up lock boxes, among other things, as you progress your way through the story to unlock and purchase things like guns, knives, outfit, cars, and horses, as well as alternate styles for some of those items. Now, Mafia The Old Country is your standard third-person cover shooter, and from what I'm hearing from early impressions, it feels great. Now, it's nothing groundbreaking. It just feels like you're getting back on the old bicycle here and playing a good old Mafia game. Don't expect anything to be new or perhaps, I guess you would say, innovative, but it is going to feel great. And since this is a third-person action stealth game, the animations need to be on point. They need to be great. And from what I've heard and from what we've seen, they are excellent. So that is really, really good news. But yeah, stealth is going to be a very, very big component of this game. Now, the dev team did say that on some missions, they added in so many enemies they don't expect players to get through stealth missions without being caught. But I think it's going to be fun to see how many of us can get through an entire family compound without being spotted. That's going to be the real challenge from what I'm seeing with this game. Now, thankfully, there is a crouch option in this game, and it is not contextual. It's going to allow you to make less noise, to draw less attention to yourself. Enzo will also be able to throw coins, or you know what? You can pick up objects around the actual world, like bottles, to distract guards. And once you get up close and personal from behind, you can either knife them very quickly, or yes, you can go for the other option, which is to strangle them and knock them out. But this does trigger a button mashing quick time event, so you got to be quick about it, and it is going to take a little bit more time than outright killing the guard. And thankfully, when Mafia The Old Country advertises that they actually have a stealth component to this game, they really do mean it. Yes, you could hide bodies in containers and that sort of thing so you can get them out of the way. So if you really, really want this to be a stealth focused game, you can have that. Also, by the way, this is pretty cool. You'll have upgradable bead slots on your rosary, which Enzo carries around. And these upgrades are going to actually affect gameplay. For example, you'll be able to unlock one upgrade that dampens the sound of your footsteps. But expect to be using pistols and shotguns as well as rifles instead of machine guns, since this does take place in early 1900s Sicily, but it's really the knife that I wanted to talk about, because there's going to be 3 different classes of knives in Mafia The Old Country. We have a knife that's going to offer lower durability but can be thrown. If you're worried about the durability of your knife, don't worry too much, because it's super easy to get it back into shape. Pull out your whetstone, which by the way can be found easily throughout the world, and you are good to go. Then we have a knife that allows for one-hit kills during active combat. And then we have the stiletto, which is going to be the knife that has the highest durability. But knives are going to be extremely important to Mafia The Old Country because they are tied to story. But some of these knives also come with special perks like healing Enzo after a takedown, among other things. And you'll be able to purchase new knives from 2 NPCs throughout your adventure, and they will unlock as you progress the story. But it looks like knives are going to be extremely important when you go into those boss battles. It seems like a respect thing, and I'm kind of curious to see how those boss battles play out with these knife battles, because yeah, it looks like it's going to be super intense. But when it comes to the actual knife fight itself, you have thrusts, slashes, parries, and dodges at your disposal, and heavy attacks can't be parried and must instead be dodged. So it's kind of a familiar melee system that we've seen implemented in other games before. But from these early impressions of the actual gameplay loop, it seems like there's a lot of fun to be had between having this cover shooter, stealth segments, then you have like a car chase that could turn into a horse chase, and then of course we have these infiltration missions, kidnappings, and all sorts of cool stuff dealing with family compounds. But yeah, I think it's obvious in stating that if you're into Mafia games or Mafia films, I think there's going to be a lot of fun to be had here, even though this game does very much tread familiar ground. And I wanted to talk about the difficulty settings in the game because there's some interesting things that happen behind the hood as you adjust the difficulty here. We have easy, medium, and hard, of course. Now, easy is going to be described as a less challenging experience for players new to action games, of course, but your weapons will deal more damage, enemies will be less accurate, you gain more resources from looting and pickups, and vehicles take less damage from collisions. And medium is going to be the go-to experience pretty much for everyone. It's going to be that balanced experience where your weapons deal that standard damage, enemies will have that normal accuracy, and vehicles will take moderate damage. But it's hard that's going to be offering that toughest challenge where your weapons deal less damage, enemies will hit harder and with higher accuracy, and you gain fewer resources from looting and pickups. So your ammunition is going to be more sparse, you're going to want to hold on to it more, which means stealth is more viable in this mode, and vehicles take realistic damage from collisions. Now, when it comes to the open world, you will be able to explore either by car, there's going to be several options there, but also this is very cool, you'll have your own horse and the option to choose different horses as you play. And by the way, since you can purchase and eventually unlock different types of vehicles in the game as well as horses, you're probably wondering, hey Robbie, will they come with their own stats? Will gameplay feel different between the different vehicles and horses? And the answer is yes. So with vehicles and cars, you can expect the vehicles to be governed by a wide variety of stats, including weight, power, top speed, and transmission type, as well as stats for acceleration, braking, and grip, each measured on a 5-point scale. And then horses will also have their own stats, such as endurance or the number of times they can be spurred for a speed boost. So it's really cool to see that's not going to be just cosmetic based. You'll definitely be noticing the difference from vehicle to vehicle, from horse to horse. And outside of combat, you can expect racing to be a thing. We did get to see this in other Mafia games, so that is returning here. And we also got to talk about some of the controversies around Mafia The Old Country, including this one right here. This was posted by the official Mafia game account, giving us the PC specs and features. And some players felt like the recommended requirements were far too demanding, but one thing that really caught a lot of players' attention was the fact that this PC specs and feature sheet featured upscaling recommendations right out of the gate, and that has been a red flag for some of the gaming community, saying that, hey, it looks like this game is not going to be optimized. Why would you be including upscaling in your PC specs and features? Shouldn't that just be an option to improve the game further? So I think with this one, only time will tell, guys, to see what happens with the optimization side of things for Mafia The Old Country. And as for the game engine, yes, this time we're running on Unreal Engine 5 this go around for Mafia The Old Country, which is something new to the Mafia franchise. We'll see how this one pans out. There have been some complaints about Unreal Engine 5, open world games, and optimization, which is why Unreal Engine 5 more recently did a whole briefing about how they're going to be updating the open world tools and how open world games will see massive improvements for optimization and streaming. But we'll have to wait and see how this one is going to stream, how it's going to run, how the optimization is going to be for Mafia The Old Country. But from those previews, running in a very controlled environment, mind you, on possibly an Ultra machine, they are saying that yes, it's running great, it looks fantastic. So there's that at the very least. But I would not be surprised if a lot of us are going to be utilizing those upscaling tools. Let me know if you guys mind that or not. As long as everything doesn't end up looking like a blurry mess, I'll be fine with it. But I mean, so far, Unreal Engine 5 is pushing detail that we're familiar with the Mafia franchise, as you can see right here, so that's good news. You also have to consider we have not really seen much in the way of console gameplay. However, I kind of do have good news when it comes to the PS5 Pro version, because their most recent gameplay trailer was showcasing PS5 Pro gameplay. And as you can see here, it looks fantastic. And yes, Mafia The Old Country will be PS5 Pro enhanced at launch, featuring support for variable refresh rate, support for 120Hz displays, and higher dynamic resolution in both quality and performance modes. But the big question is, what about consoles overall? The Mafia team did post this right here on PS5 and Xbox Series X. Mafia The Old Country will have both quality and performance modes at launch, with the game running at an average of 60 frames per second in performance mode. Now, players who want to prioritize higher resolution and visual fidelity should select quality mode, while players who prefer to prioritize frame rate should select performance mode. So yeah, those rumors about the game being stuck at 30 frames per second on console forever are just rumors, and they have been completely debunked. So another question is, can you play Mafia The Old Country offline? So there are some caveats with this, but yes, you can. So on PC, you'll need to be connected first to the internet when you start initially launching the game. But in most instances beyond that, Mafia The Old Country is entirely playable offline. Now, there are two exceptions to this. If you do significantly change up your PC hardware between play sessions, yes, an online connection may be required the next time you launch the game. And of course, if you're altering the executable file through game updates, an online connection will be required upon the next launch. But thankfully, expect not to be bothered by battle passes, microtransactions, or any of that nonsense. This can be truly enjoyed as a single-player, narrative-driven experience. All right, so yes, there it is, a look at Mafia The Old Country, and it looks like we're returning to what really works within the Mafia franchise. You know, the dev team, they aren't shy about saying that, hey, you know what, we don't want excess bloat in our game just to have some sort of marketing scheme where we can say, hey, you know what, we have a bajillion things to do in our open world game. When you do that sort of thing, your game can become soulless and the story can actually be lost in the mix. Instead, what we have here with Mafia The Old Country, at least this is the mission statement from the dev team, and what they're trying to pull off here is a very focused, narrative-driven experience that is supposed to offer a really damn good story with interesting characters, a beautiful backdrop in 1900 Sicily that is all about surviving this underworld and trying to make your way in basically a tough life. So we'll see how it pans out. I'm excited for it. I feel like we need more narrative-driven games in a sea of games that offer battle passes, microtransactions. This is the sort of thing that I actually really enjoy, is just sitting down, having no distractions, being fully immersed in a game that is all about character building and story, and I'm hoping that they pull off the story. So yeah, that's gonna be the most important thing. But yeah, there it is, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you guys are gonna pull the trigger and get Mafia The Old Country right out of the gates for that $50, or if you're gonna wait for the sale. But thanks, guys, for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.